In the quiet forested town of Gravity Falls, Oregon, an air of mystery hides beneath the sleepy summer days. Though it's a beloved vacation spot for twins Dipper and Mabel Pines, this town has a surprisingly long history of mischief, secrets, and outright crimes. From quirky petty scams to supernatural misdeeds that shake reality, Gravity Falls has seen it all. In this gentle journey, we'll walk through the entire history of Gravity Falls crimes calmly and chronologically to uncover every scheme and wrongdoing. Relax and settle in as we explore these tales one by one in a soothing tone, guiding you through mysteries and misdeeds without any hurry. By the end, we'll have traversed decades of secrets, schemes, and strange crimes that have unfolded in Gravity Falls, all in a way that eases you toward rest. Early crimes in Gravity Falls history. Long before the Pines family arrived, Gravity Falls had already been the stage for dark deeds hidden in local legend. One of the earliest known crimes dates back to the 19th century, involving the wealthy Northwest family. In 1863, town founder Nathaniel Northwest made a treacherous promise to local lumberjacks: help build his grand mansion in exchange for an invitation to a lavish party. However, once the mansion was completed, the Northwest family broke their promise and barred the hard-working townsfolk from the party. This betrayal had deadly consequences. A sudden mudslide in 1863 wiped out many of those lumberjacks, a tragedy later blamed on the Northwest's selfish actions. The event created a vengeful spirit, a ghostly lumberjack who swore revenge on the Northwest family for their broken deal and the resulting deaths. This ghost would slumber in local lore, waiting for justice, as an ominous note in Gravity Falls' history of crime and retribution. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we find twin brothers Stanley and Stanford Pines entwined in Gravity Falls' destiny. Stanley, the Stan Pines, led a troubled life marked by petty crimes and cons, even before arriving in Gravity Falls. In the late 1960s, young Stan ran a small business called Stan Co., selling fraudulent products, until angry, swindled customers forced him to flee New Jersey in 1969 to escape their wrath. By 1982, fate drew Stan to Gravity Falls, where his brilliant twin brother Ford had mysteriously vanished. In a desperate attempt to set things right, Stan committed one of his most significant crimes: identity theft. He assumed his missing brother's identity, Stanford Pines, to take over Ford's work and property. To cover his tracks, Stan even faked his own death. He staged a car crash to kill off the Stanley Pines name, ensuring no one would come looking for the real him. These were serious crimes: fraud, forgery, and more. But Stan felt driven by a personal mission to secretly continue Ford's research. Thus, by the early 1980s, Stan had already built a life on lies and lawbreaking in Gravity Falls, setting the stage for many adventures and misadventures to come. Stan Pines and a life of shady schemes, settling into Gravity Falls under his stolen identity, Grunkle Stan, as the twins would later call him, opened the Mystery Shack, a tourist trap full of fake oddities and attractions. While charming in his own way, Stan had a long list of unlawful antics under his belt. Over the years, he engaged in countless minor crimes, often hinted at through jokes and asides. At one point, a truth-telling spell forces Stan to reveal some of his misdeeds, and it's quite a roster. For instance, Stan openly admits to committing massive tax fraud, to smuggling endangered animals across state borders, and even to faking doctor's notes for false excuses. He would sell counterfeit goods, like spray-painted rocks passed off as gold, and shamelessly lie to customers, all under the guise of showmanship. In a particularly absurd scheme, he even tried teaching a bear to drive a car as an attraction, only to lie to police about it by claiming the bear was his seeing eye bear with a fake doctor's note. Such stunts brought Stan dangerously close to legal trouble. When enchanted truth teeth made him honest for a day, he nearly got himself arrested by blurting out all his crimes to Sheriff Blubbs. Thankfully, for Stan, his quick-thinking niece Mabel intervened with a cover story, saving him from jail just in time. Despite his long criminal record, from petty thefts to fraudulent money-making schemes, Stan's actions were often portrayed humorously. The local news once even insinuated Stan had been involved in bizarre crimes like pug trafficking or woodpecker baiting, which shows how legendary his shadiness had become. Many of these are tongue-in-cheek, but they underscore that Stan lived life by his own rules, often outside the law. By the time his great-niece and nephew, Mabel and Dipper, come to stay for the summer, Grunkle Stan is essentially a lovable outlaw, He keeps a shotgun under the register, a dry wit at the ready, and plenty of secrets hidden behind his old vending machine. Though his crimes range from comical to serious, Stan always seems to wriggle out of consequences, at least until far bigger dangers arrive in Gravity Falls. A summer of mischief and mysteries begins when 12-year-old twins Dipper and Mabel Pines arrive to spend the summer of 2012 with Stan. They have no idea they're stepping into one of the strangest and most crime-ridden summers of their lives. It all starts innocently enough. Mabel is looking for romance, and Dipper is adjusting to working at the Mystery Shack. But in the very first week, they stumble on a hidden journal and come face to face with the paranormal side of Gravity Falls, uncovering new misdeeds at every turn. Their very first adventure in town reveals a kidnapping plot. Mabel thinks she's met her dream boyfriend, but it turns out Norman is actually a group of gnomes in disguise. These gnomes, led by one named Jeff, want to force Mabel to be their queen. When she politely declines their offer, the gnomes decide that if they can't win her over with niceness, they'll just kidnap her instead. One peaceful summer evening in the woods, the gnomes tie up Mabel and drag her away, intending to make her marry them against her will. This would-be fairy tale quickly becomes a crime: attempted forced marriage and kidnapping. Dipper rushes in to save Mabel using the mysterious journal's knowledge. In a chaotic chase, the gnomes even merge into a giant gnome monster made of hundreds of little men determined to capture Mabel again. Fortunately, Mabel manages to defeat them, with nothing more violent than a leaf blower blasting them away. The gnomes' plan is foiled and Mabel is safe, but this strange crime is an eye-opener. The twins realize that in Gravity Falls, even the forest gnomes might commit a kidnapping. It's a gentle warning that not all is as innocent as it seems in this town. Soon after, Dipper and Mabel encounter another peculiar crime scene, this time a murder mystery at the Mystery Shack itself. Grunkle Stan's wax sculpture collection includes a life-size wax figure of Stan, his Wax Stan double. One night, Wax Stan is found decapitated, his wax head severed by an axe. In other words, someone murdered the wax statue in cold blood. The idea is absurdly charming, a murder mystery where the victim is a candle dummy. But the twins treat it seriously, playing detective. Suspects range from wax Sherlock Holmes to wax Abraham Lincoln. In a delightfully macabre twist, the culprit is revealed to be the wax figures themselves, come to life by some curse. The wax Sherlock Holmes was the one who swung the axe, mistakenly believing Wax Stan was the real Stan, and beheaded the statue out of vengeance. Once exposed, all the wax figures drop their friendly act and attack Dipper and Mabel, deciding to eliminate the living witnesses to keep their secret safe. Suddenly, the shack's living room becomes a battleground. 12 evil wax figures versus 2 kids. It's a dangerous brawl, or as dangerous as fighting wax celebrities can be, and qualifies as attempted double homicide, albeit in a supernatural sense. In the end, the twins discover the wax figures' weakness, heat, and melt them down with sunlight and hot coffee. The Wax Museum murder is solved, and while no human was harmed, it goes on record as one of Gravity Falls' oddest crimes. The case of the wax killer showed the kids that even the attractions in the shack could hide deadly secrets. As the summer continues, almost every week brings a new caper or crime. Some are lighthearted and prankish, while others are more serious. Early on, an episode of fun turns into public endangerment during the Gobblewonker incident. Dipper, Mabel, and friend Suze go lake monster hunting, only to find that the feared lake monster terrorizing fishermen is actually a giant robot. Who built this mechanical beast? None other than Old Man McGucket, the local kooky inventor, trying to scare people for attention. In doing so, McGucket causes property damage, sinking boats, and mass panic as the roaring robot serpent rampages across Lake Gravity Falls. It's essentially fraud and vandalism rolled together. McGucket perpetrated the Gobblewonker hoax to get noticed by his son. When his ruse is discovered, he collapses into giggles more than remorse. It's a comparatively benign crime for Gravity Falls. No one is hurt, except maybe McGucket's pride when the robot falls apart. But it adds to the growing list of local mischief. In another early escapade, Dipper's innocent wish to impress a girl leads to the unleashing of a video game fighter on the town. When a 90s arcade game character named Rumble McSkirmish comes to life thanks to a cheat code Dipper found, things escalate quickly. Rumble believes he must defend Dipper's honor by defeating Dipper's perceived rival, a local teen named Robbie. What starts as a humorous situation becomes life-threatening when Rumble cannot distinguish game from reality. He corners Robbie atop the town's water tower and in a dramatic moment knocks Robbie off the tower's edge. The muscular 8-bit man catches Robbie by the shirt, dangling him in midair, essentially holding Robbie's life in his hands. Rumble fully intends to finish him off, misinterpreting Dipper's orders. If not for Dipper's quick intervention and clever thinking, Robbie could have fallen to a grim fate. This strange event counts as attempted murder under any definition. A video game hero nearly turned executioner. Thankfully, Dipper stops Rumble just in time, and the pixelated warrior redirects his fury back at Dipper, who he realizes tricked him. After a surreal fistfight in the sky between Boy and Game Sprite, Dipper manages to send Rumble back into the arcade machine. Robbie survives with only frayed nerves. The town, meanwhile, remains blissfully unaware how close a digital fighter came to committing a very real crime that day. For the Pines twins, it's another lesson that even games and dreams can become dangerous reality in Gravity Falls. The rise of Lil Gideon, fraud, theft, and mind demons. While some Gravity Falls wrongdoers were supernatural creatures or accidents, one major villain was all too human, a charismatic 10-year-old con artist named Lil Gideon Gleeful. Gideon starts out as an adorable-looking local celebrity, the psychic kid who wowed audiences at the Tent of Telepathy. But beneath that cute exterior lies a scheming criminal mind. His crime spree unfolds gradually, growing bolder and darker as the summer progresses, and it's best told chronologically. At first, Gideon's misdeeds are fraudulent business practices. He claims to be a genuine psychic and uses his sugary southern charm to swindle the townsfolk. In reality, Gideon has no psychic powers at all. His performances are a sham. He keeps hidden cameras in his tie pins to gather information on his audience. This is a clear act of fraud and invasion of privacy. He's essentially running a long con on the whole town. Grunkle Stan, a fellow huckster, immediately dislikes Gideon as a business rival. The two enter a rivalry, each trying to outwit the other. Gideon invites Mabel on a date as part of a ploy to get closer to the Pines family, then becomes obsessed with marrying her, or at least making her his girlfriend. When Mabel gently rejects Gideon's advances, the little boy's facade of sweetness cracks and dangerous obsession takes root. Gideon's next crime is attempted murder by magic. In an early confrontation, Gideon acquires a cursed object, a magical amulet, that allows him to telekinetically attack Stan. During the episode The Hand That Rocks the Mabel, Gideon corners Stan with violent intent. Though the full scene happens off-screen, it's implied Gideon might have tried to seriously harm or kill Stan in a rage, using his newfound supernatural abilities. Stan survives and Gideon's plot fails, but the bad blood deepens. After that, Gideon's eyes turn toward a bigger prize. He covets the mystery shack itself. He's convinced that something valuable is hidden there. Indeed, one of the mysterious journals. When Stan refuses to sell or sign over the shack, Gideon embarks on a campaign of terror against the Pines family. One of Gideon's schemes involves a size-altering crystal he steals, which he uses to kidnap the twins. In the incident known as Little Dipper, Gideon discovers a magical crystal that can shrink or enlarge objects and people. He uses it to shrink Dipper and Mabel down to a few inches tall, effectively abducting them and holding them prisoner in a jar. With the twins captured, Gideon taunts Grunkle Stan by phone, claiming he has the kids in his clutches. This is classic kidnapping and extortion. Gideon hopes Stan will panic and give up the mystery shack. However, Stan doesn't believe Gideon's boast at first, assuming it's another bluff, which only frustrates Gideon further. The cunning child decides to escalate. He plans to shrink Stan as well and take the shack by force. Gideon's attempt nearly succeeds. He infiltrates the shack and even manages to shrink the handyman Seuss, mistaking him for Stan. Gideon then corners the real Stan in the mirror maze attraction, ready to zap him with the crystal flashlight. In a dramatic reversal, Dipper and Mabel, who escaped their jar, outsmart Gideon by tickling him, causing him to drop the crystal. The twins restore themselves to full size and save their great uncle, ending Gideon's immediate threat. In the aftermath, Stan literally kicks Gideon out of the shack's front door, a humiliating defeat for the boy. Despite failing this time, Gideon's crime spree only intensifies from here. Stung by defeat, Gideon next tries sabotage and property destruction. He unleashes a more brute force strategy, using explosives. In Dreamscapers, Gideon becomes desperate to steal Stan's safe combination. Believing a journal is locked inside Stan's safe, and he's right. Gideon goes so far as to summon a dream demon, Bill Cipher, to invade Stan's mind and steal the code. This act is chilling. Gideon willingly allies with an evil supernatural entity, essentially hiring Bill to commit mental espionage and assault on Stan. When that plan backfires, thanks to the twins battling Bill inside Stan's mind, Gideon doesn't hesitate to use good old-fashioned violence. He resorts to dynamite, blowing open the safe in the Mystery Shack by force. The explosion shatters Stan's office and Gideon steals the deed to the Mystery Shack, claiming legal ownership through trickery. To cement his hostile takeover, Gideon even has his father, Bud Gleeful, use a wrecking ball to demolish the Mystery Shack's sign, literally attempting to destroy Stan's livelihood. By now, Gideon has racked up a list of serious charges: breaking and entering, grand larceny, theft of the shack and its assets, and reckless endangerment with explosives. He manages to get Stan arrested on false charges and briefly becomes the new owner of the Mystery Shack, kicking the Pines family out of their own home. It's a crooked victory for Gideon, and he isn't done yet. Gideon's grand finale of crime comes in Gideon Rises, where all his schemes collide. Discovering that the journal he stole from Dipper, journal number 3, is one of a set of 3, Gideon becomes obsessed with acquiring the remaining one, journal number 1, which he mistakenly believes Dipper has. When the Pines twins refuse to give him any more journals, Gideon unveils his ultimate weapon: a giant robot built in the shape of himself. Yes, a Gideon-shaped mecha. In this climactic showdown, Gideon pilots the massive Gideon bot in a rampage through Gravity Falls, chasing down Dipper and Mabel, who are fleeing for their lives in Stan's golf cart. During this pursuit, Gideon crosses lines that even adult villains might balk at. He attempts to re-abduct Mabel, declaring that if he can't have her love, he'll take her by force as his bride. He nearly succeeds. Using the robot, Gideon grabs Mabel, sealing her in a compartment, and it looks as though he intends to escape with her. This is kidnapping and forced child marriage attempt rolled into one deranged plan. Simultaneously, Gideon tries to kill Dipper, Mabel's beloved twin, by any means necessary, from laser blasts to missiles fired from his robot. It's a chaotic chase, but Dipper and Mabel manage to infiltrate Gideon's mech. In the final confrontation inside the robot's control room, they work together to sabotage the machine. Gideon's robot goes down, in a spectacular crash stopped just shy of truly hurting the twins. Still, Gideon, consumed by fury, isn't giving up. He emerges from the wreckage and confronts Stan directly, prepared to finish this feud once and for all. At this point, justice finally catches up with little Gideon. In front of the whole town, Stan reveals Gideon's deepest secret. Gideon was never psychic at all. He was a fraud using hidden cameras. The townsfolk who once adored Gideon feel utterly betrayed. Gideon's own father, Bud, is heartbroken by the revelation. Enraged citizens surround Gideon. The boy panics and tries one last gambit, attempting to have the twins arrested by blaming everything on them. But no one buys his lies now. Sheriffs Blubbs and Derland promptly handcuff Gideon. As he's taken away, Stan reclaims the shack's deed from Gideon's pocket, and unbeknownst to Gideon, also steals journal number 2 from him during the scuffle. Gideon is arrested and publicly exposed, ending his reign of terror. At trial, Gideon tries to feign innocence with a cutesy act, but Gravity Falls has finally seen through him. For his multitude of crimes, Gideon Gleeful is convicted and sent to Gravity Falls maximum security prison, a harsh sentence for a 10-year-old, but a fitting end to his criminal summer. It's worth noting that once behind bars, Gideon's ego actually finds a new way to thrive. The other inmates love his psychic show in jail, turning him into their leader for a time. Thus ends Gideon's summer crime spree, with him in orange prison overalls, the Mystery Shack returned to Stan, and the Pines family safe once more. Gideon's arc shows how even the sweetest smiling child can be a true criminal mastermind, leaving a wake of fraud, theft, destruction, and attempted murder in pursuit of power, uncovering secrets and historical crimes. With Gideon behind bars and summer in full swing, one might expect Gravity Falls to calm down, but the opposite happens. As Dipper and Mabel continue exploring the town's mysteries, they uncover older crimes and secret conspiracies that have been operating in the shadows for decades. These aren't one-off misdeeds, but long-running offenses that have affected many lives. One such clandestine group is the Society of the Blind Eye, a secret society that Dipper, Mabel, and friends stumble upon. At first, strange clues emerge. People around town have bizarre memory gaps, and one day the kids find a cave full of discarded glass tubes, each containing swirling blue memories. Investigating further, they discover a hidden lair beneath the Gravity Falls Museum. Here, the Society of the Blind Eye performs eerie rituals. This group, led by a man called Blind Ivan, has been stealing people's memories to make them forget any supernatural or disturbing events. While their intent was arguably to help people live peacefully, their methods are undeniably criminal. They commit mass kidnapping, abducting anyone who saw something weird, and mass brainwashing using a memory-erasing gun. Over the decades, countless residents have been dragged off the street and had their memories wiped without consent. This includes the lovable Lazy Susan, the diner waitress. They caught her just for seeing gnomes steal pies and erased her memory of it. The side effects of repeated memory wipes are horrific. Victims like Lazy Susan end up with permanent brain damage. At one point, she cannot even remember her own gender after a session with the memory gun. In essence, the Society of the Blind Eye perpetrated decades of non-consensual psychological abuse on the townsfolk, all in secret. They truly believed it was for the greater good, a necessary evil to help people forget the unexplainable. But the harm was very real. They were robbing people of their life experiences and sanity. When Dipper and Mabel uncover their meeting, the society attempts to capture and erase the memories of the young intruders as well, which would have effectively been attempted murder of the mind, erasing who a person is. In a dramatic turn, the kids are saved by Old Man McGucket, the society's founder turned victim, who crashes in heroically. McGucket had founded the society years ago to ease his own tortured mind, but he now sees the damage it's caused. A scuffle ensues. Blind Ivan tries to wipe the gang's minds, but McGucket intervenes and the memory gun's blast ends up hitting the cult members instead. In the end, Dipper uses the weapon to erase the last traces of the society from its own members' minds, effectively disbanding them. It's a strangely poetic justice. The brainwashers are quite literally brainwashed into forgetting their cruel mission. The Society of the Blind Eye's downfall exposes one of Gravity Falls' longest-running invisible crimes, ending the era of enforced ignorance. It's a relief to know the town's citizens won't be secretly tampered with anymore, but also chilling to realize how many memories were stolen over the years with no one the wiser. Another historic wrongdoing comes to light through Pacifica Northwest, the rich girl who initially seems snobby but later seeks redemption. The Northwest family, as mentioned earlier, carried a dark legacy since the 19th century. The twins learn the full extent of this in the episode Northwest Mansion Mystery, when Pacifica invites Dipper to investigate a haunting at the Northwest Mansion. A vengeful ghost of a lumberjack is indeed crashing the Northwest family's high society party. The ghost's anger is justified. He is the spirit of one of those laborers betrayed in 1863 when the Northwest cheated the town. We learn that after the Northwest reneged on their promise to let the townsfolk into the mansion's inaugural party, a mudslide struck the crowded lawns outside, killing that lumberjack and many others who'd been denied entry. This was not just a natural disaster, it became a crime of criminal negligence or manslaughter caused by the Northwest's greed. They had literally sealed the doors and let people die to keep their party exclusive. The ghost demands Pacifica atone for her great-grandparents' sin by finally allowing the town's common folk into the mansion during the current party. Initially, Pacifica's parents would rather fight the ghost and let their guests be turned to wood by his curse than give in. They value their elitist tradition over what's right, thereby continuing the crime morally. However, Pacifica, with Dipper's encouragement, sees the truth of her family's wrongdoing. In a pivotal moment, she swings open the mansion's gates, inviting the regular townspeople inside and thereby fulfilling the promise broken 150 years ago. The ghost, satisfied that the ancestral crime is finally corrected, peacefully dissipates. This act of contrition effectively ends the Northwest family's historical crime, at least symbolically, and also breaks a cycle of arrogance. For Pacifica, it's a step toward breaking free of her family's corrupt legacy. But it's haunting, no pun intended, to realize that Gravity Falls' most prestigious family built its wealth on deception, broken promises, and the blood of innocents. The events at the mansion show how old crimes cast long shadows, requiring courage and humility from the descendants to set right. Amid these revelations, Grunkle Stan himself becomes the center of a criminal investigation. Throughout the summer, Stan has been secretly working on a mysterious project beneath the Mystery Shack, and it finally comes to a head after Gideon's fall. Stan's covert activities, like stealing Gideon's journal and repairing a hidden machine, hadn't gone entirely unnoticed. Two government agents, Powers and Trigger, have been snooping around, suspicious of Stan. Finally, their suspicions bear fruit. In the episode Not What He Seems, as Stan activates a rebuilt interdimensional portal, the agents burst in and place Stan under arrest. The charge? Stealing hazardous government property. It turns out Stan had been stealing toxic nuclear waste from an off-site facility to use as fuel for his secret portal machine. Indeed, we see Stan at one point driving back to the shack with glowing radioactive barrels, an extremely illegal and dangerous act. He did this to power the portal that might rescue his lost brother Ford. But to the law, and to Dipper and Mabel at first, Stan's actions look malevolent and inexplicable. The agents corner Stan, guns drawn, arresting him for a laundry list of crimes. Theft of government property, endangering public safety, probably numerous safety code violations. As the twins watch in shock, even more of Stan's secrets unravel, including his true identity as Stanley, not Stanford. The children reel at the realization that Stan has lied about who he is for 30,000 years. In a tense standoff, with the government about to haul Stan away and shut down the unknown portal, Dipper and Mabel have to decide whom to trust. Ultimately, they side with their Grunkle, freeing him. In the chaos, Stan's portal fully powers up and the fabric of reality trembles. In the nick of time, the real Stanford Pines, Stan's twin, emerges from the portal alive. The portal is shut down, and Stan's deeper reasons come to light. Stan's arrest incident neatly encapsulates how his lifetime of shady behavior finally caught up with him. Almost. Federal agents caught him red-handed committing a high crime, nuclear theft, and even his family questioned his honesty. And yet Stan manages to evade legal consequences again, albeit in an unusual way. Once Ford, a renowned scientist thought long dead, returns and grasps the situation, he uses a memory gun on the agents to wipe their memories of the incident. The agents leave town dazed, believing their investigation is closed as nothing was amiss. It's an ironic twist. The same sort of illicit memory wiping that the Society of the Blind Eye did, Ford now does to protect Stan, and perhaps the world, from knowledge of the portal. This means Stan doesn't end up facing prison time for his daring crimes. However, the truth is now out among the family. Stan's decades of identity theft, fraud, and the illegal lengths he went to save Ford. Not What He Seems and A Tale of Two Stans together reveal that Stan spent 10 years as a small-time criminal after being disowned, even becoming a wanted man in multiple states under various aliases. He ran grifts like fake potted plants and other scams, always staying one step ahead of the law. When he took Ford's identity in 1982, he also dodged the police by faking his death, as we know. In short, Stan's entire adult life was checkered with unlawful escapades. Now, with Ford back, Stan's motivation is vindicated. He saved his brother, but he must face the fallout with his family's trust. Legally, though, the memory wipe means Stan once again slips through the fingers of justice, a pattern for our lovable rogue. One might say Stan's greatest heist was stealing back his brother from another dimension, and for that crime, at least, most are willing to forgive him. Chaos and Crimes of Weirdmageddon, Bill Cipher's reign. Up to this point, Gravity Falls had seen plenty of crimes, both human and supernatural, but nothing compares to the apocalyptic crime spree unleashed by the ultimate antagonist of the series, Bill Cipher. Bill is a one-eyed dream demon from another dimension, a being of pure chaos who had been lurking on the edges of events. He is behind some earlier crimes, like Gideon's mine theft attempt and Dipper's brief body possession incident. But it isn't until the end of the summer that Bill truly strikes. The result is an event called Weirdmageddon, a nightmare apocalypse where Bill breaks reality itself. The crimes Bill commits during this short span make an extensive list: mass murder, torture, mind control, reality warping, and global catastrophe, to name a few. It's important to recount these calmly, as astonishing as they are, to understand the full scope of Bill's villainy. First, a note on Bill's background. It frames the enormity of what he is. Bill Cipher comes from the second dimension and is trillions of years old. In his home dimension, he grew bored and destroyed his entire world, literally burning it to the ground and killing every living thing there, including his own parents. This act of omnicide, killing all life in a universe, and parricide, killing one's parents, is almost incomprehensible in scale and evil. It shows that Bill is utterly ruthless and without empathy. After annihilating his dimension, Bill set his sights on ours. Gravity Falls became the focal point of his schemes, partly due to Ford's experiments. Bill's ultimate goal, long prophesied, was to merge his nightmare realm with our reality, essentially to plunge the universe into permanent madness under his rule. In other words, Bill aimed to commit cosmic-scale crimes, the destruction and enslavement of our entire world, and possibly the universe, just for his own amusement. Bill's presence is felt earlier in small doses. He first appears when Gideon summons him to steal Stan's safe code, as mentioned. In that psychic heist, Bill committed assault on 3 children within Stan's mind, bringing their nightmares to life and trying to kill them inside the dreamscape. Later, Bill makes deals to possess people. For example, he tricks Dipper into a deal and possesses Dipper's body, creating the mischievous Bipper, during which he destroys an important laptop and attempts to burn Journal 3. These early infractions, fraudulent deals, theft of body, destruction of property, are just a prelude. Bill's crimes escalate exponentially once Weirdmageddon starts. Weirdmageddon begins when Bill finally finds a way to break the barrier between dimensions. He manipulates Mabel through a possessed time traveler into handing over a celestial artifact called the Rift, then promptly shatters it. The sky cracks open, and Bill enters our world in a physical form with a gleeful declaration of rule. What follows is essentially Bill's crime carnival across Gravity Falls. Upon arrival, Bill imprisons Mabel in a giant bubble, a gilded cage where time stands still, meant to keep her complacent and out of the way. This is an act of kidnapping and unlawful imprisonment of a child on a massive scale. Bill then addresses the terrified townsfolk gathered below. When the crowd doesn't immediately bow to him, Bill singles out Pacifica's father, Preston Northwest, who tries to curry favor, and horrifically disfigures him by rearranging his facial features. This is done as an example to instill fear, essentially, terroristic violence. Bill proceeds to decorate the town to his liking. He summons flocks of eye bats that turn people to stone with their gaze and abduct them into the sky. In minutes, a good portion of Gravity Falls citizens are petrified alive, a fate worse than death for many, as they remain conscious, frozen in stone. These stone victims are carried to Bill's throne, a monstrous structure he erects called the Pyramid. Bill gleefully fuses the petrified bodies into a throne, a massive throne of frozen human agony where he sits to survey his dominion. This is an act of pure cruelty and sadism. Bill literally turns people into furniture, a living monument to his conquest. We can calmly say no crime in Gravity Falls history approaches the sheer horror of that image. In Bill's own twisted sense of humor, he throws a cosmic party in his pyramid with music and dancing, as if the suffering around him is merely a party theme. When the Time Police, the Time Baby, and his Chrono officers attempt to intervene, Bill eliminates them in an instant. In one casual swipe, Bill vaporizes Time Baby and the entire squadron of Time Enforcement. This is deicide. Time Baby was a godlike entity, and mass murder on a scale spanning time itself. He laughs it off and continues his revelry. Over the next few days, Weirdmageddon stretches on for at least 3 days. Bill's chaos spreads. The sky rains giant babies and other absurd horrors. Reality warps into nightmare shapes, and any survivors hide where they can. Bill's minions, the henchmaniacs, roam freely, committing random acts of violence, destruction, and torment on anyone they find. One particularly gut-wrenching sight is Bill's Throne of Frozen Fear. By day 4 of Weirdmageddon, Bill has petrified most of the townsfolk and assembled them into an enormous throne of people stuck in poses of fear and anguish. He lounges on this throne, satisfied, announcing his plan to spread Weirdmageddon beyond Gravity Falls. Indeed, Bill wants to bring this chaos worldwide, effectively a plan of global genocide and enslavement. However, a curious limitation stops him. An enchanted barrier around Gravity Falls, created by Ford and Dipper earlier with unicorn magic, traps Bill and his weirdness inside the town. Enraged that he can't immediately expand, Bill becomes determined to break the barrier. This leads to Bill's personal torture of Stanford Pines. Ford knows about the barrier's nature. It's tied to the town's mystical weirdness magnet, but he won't share the info. Bill captures Ford early in Weirdmageddon by turning him to gold and uses him as a back-scratcher, mocking him. Later, Bill frees Ford from the gold spell only to torture him for knowledge. In Take Back the Falls, Bill chains Ford and repeatedly blasts him with supernatural energy, causing intense pain. This is outright torture. Bill attempting to force Ford to give up the equation to break the barrier. Ford, tough as nails, refuses despite agony. Bill then adds a psychological layer to his crimes. He realizes Ford cares for Dipper and Mabel, so he threatens to torture and kill the twins if Ford won't talk. This is a classic hostage situation with Bill as the sadistic kidnapper. When the Pines family mounts a rescue with a makeshift mech, the Shacktron, Bill fights back ferociously. He tries to crush the heroes, only to be stalled by the Shack's unicorn-protected metal. In retaliation, Bill performs one of his flashiest feats. When the heroes attempt a Zodiac Unity ritual to weaken Bill, he burns the magical circle and then, in one snap, transforms all the assembled friends, Wendy, Suze, Pacifica, etc., into tapestries. One moment they are standing ready to fight, the next they are flat banners hanging in midair, each bearing a frozen image of their screaming face. Bill leaves only the Pines family unfrozen, as he wants to enjoy breaking them personally. This act is beyond any conventional crime. It's essentially mass torture and imprisonment, trapping people in conscious two-dimensional forms. The visual of colorful tapestries made from living humans, all terrified, is as dark as this show gets. Bill treats it lightly, cracking a joke that they should have been afraid of him. For Bill, fear is the point. He's a creature who delights in breaking minds and bodies. Finally, Bill moves to directly murder the Pines family. He imprisons Dipper and Mabel in a pyramid cage and gives Ford an ultimatum: let Bill into his mind to get the barrier equation, or Bill will kill the twins. Ever defiant, Ford still refuses, and Bill starts the countdown to kill one of the kids. In this critical moment, Stan and Ford execute a last-ditch plan. They trick Bill. Stan disguises himself as Ford, and Ford is Stan, so that Bill ends up entering Stan's mind by mistake. Ford then uses the memory gun on Stan, knowing it will also erase Bill, who is trapped inside Stan's mind. In Stan's mindscape, as everything burns, Bill experiences fear and desperation for the first time. He pleads, bargains, and threatens, but Stan, in a final heroic act, allows his own memories to be sacrificed to destroy Bill. Stan's mental self punches Bill at full force, shattering the demon into dust and erasing Bill Cipher from existence. With Bill's demise, all his magical atrocities are undone. The petrified people revert to flesh. The tapestries turn back into friends. The weirdness dissipates and Gravity Falls returns to relative normalcy. The physical Bill is reduced to a lifeless stone statue, left in the forest as the sole remnant of Weirdmageddon. Bill Cipher's crime rampage during Weirdmageddon is unparalleled. In a span of days, he murdered or maimed countless beings, terrorized an entire town, and nearly ended the world for nothing more than his own amusement. For the record, if one were to list Bill's offenses like a court indictment, it would include mass murder, mass torture, kidnapping of Mabel and others, mind control, desecration of corpses — he used the town founder's body as a puppet earlier — destruction of property on a vast scale, arson, the sky was on fire, assault with deadly intent on minors, treason against reality itself, and frankly, crimes with no name because they're that fantastical, like turning people into banners or causing madness bubbles. Bill's influence also drove a scientist insane for life. He's the reason McGucket lost his mind, due to visions from the portal. In the aftermath, there's cosmic justice. Bill is gone, seemingly forever, sentenced to some form of karmic imprisonment. According to cryptic lore, Bill's consciousness is trapped, possibly undergoing infinite rehab in a mysterious theraprism dimension. It's a fitting punishment for a demon who caused infinite suffering, an eternity of being reformed. Thus ends Bill Cipher's saga of crimes, with reality saved by the narrowest margin, thanks to the courage and sacrifice of the Pines family. Aftermath and reflections. When the dust settles on that extraordinary summer, Gravity Falls returns to a sleepy semblance of normal. But the marks of all these crimes and adventures remain, some literally, like the repaired Mystery Shack sign missing its S from the wax figure battle, and some in memory. The local police, Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Durland, probably have a mountain of puzzling case files. The mystery of the giant Gideon robot rampage, the town-wide riots and vandalism that might be how they rationalize Weirdmageddon, and so on. Yet, true to Gravity Falls' form, much is swept under the rug. After Bill's defeat, time resumes, and the townsfolk gather for one last party at the Mystery Shack to celebrate victory. Many might not even fully remember the Weirdmageddon events. It was so traumatic that it feels like a bad dream. The Pines family chooses not to enlighten everyone with the full truth, perhaps for the best. Some characters find redemption, or at least closure. Gideon Gleeful, for instance, experiences a change of heart in the final battle. He breaks out of jail during Weirdmageddon and initially works for Bill, tasked with guarding Mabel's bubble. But when confronted by Dipper and friends, Gideon realizes that continuing to be a villain will never earn him Mabel's affection. In a surprising turn, Gideon steps aside and even helps fight off Bill's minions at the end. After Bill's defeat, we see Gideon back in his cell, but seemingly at peace. He's no longer the power-hungry brat. He's humming a tune, accepting that being Lil Gideon isn't everything. One imagines that with his father's guidance, Gideon might be paroled early. After all, half the jury that convicted him were likely turned to stone and back, which might change perspectives. If nothing else, Gideon's. Chapter closed with him returning to just a kid who maybe learned a lesson. As for Stan Pines, the man of many crimes, he ironically becomes the hero who saved the world. Granted, he needed his brother's help to get his memories back afterward. Ford used the memory gun's recovery setting to help Stan remember his family. Stan emerges from the summer with his family's trust restored and even deepened. His shady past seems to be fully forgiven by those who matter. Legally, Stan is still somewhat of a fugitive. Remember, Sonny, Stanford Pines is not his real identity. But with the agent's memories erased, the feds are off his back. And now that the real Stanford, Ford, is present and cooperating, one imagines Ford helped legitimize Stan's identity somehow. Perhaps they quietly agreed that Stan would continue to answer to Stanford in official records so as not to cause a bureaucratic stir. In any case, Stan is free. By summer's end, he and Ford embark on a long-dreamed voyage, sailing around the world on Stan's boat, the Stan-O-War, looking for new adventures or new scams in Stan's case. The twins depart Gravity Falls knowing their grunkle, flawed as he is a good man at heart who made amends for his lies in the most heroic way possible. We should also note that Pacifica Northwest likely leads her family on a path of change after confronting the ghost. There's indication that Preston Northwest, after being disfigured by Bill and then restored, is humbled. Nothing like your face being rearranged by a demon to adjust your priorities. Pacifica, having seen the error of her family's old ways, might help turn the Northwests into more genuine community members, no more exploiting the town or covering up past crimes. The Northwest legacy of elitism died with the lumberjacks' curse being lifted. The local law enforcement, incompetent but well-meaning Blubbs and Durland, probably categorized the summer's events under headings like town riots or mass hallucinations. After all, how could they file a report that says giant triangle causes end of world, stopped by kids and local con man? Some now our journey through the shadows of Gravity Falls comes to a close. We've wandered through centuries-old betrayals, witnessed childish pranks that turned into serious felonies, and even survived an interdimensional demon's crime spree. It's remarkable how much this small town endured in one summer. From Lil Gideon's frauds and attempted conquests to Bill Cipher's apocalyptic nightmares, we've calmly chronicled each crime and misdeed. And through doing so, we've seen that even in a place as tranquil-looking as Gravity Falls, mystery and danger are always lurking, often hand in hand with wonder and adventure. As you drift to sleep, consider the dual nature of this town's story. For every crime there was a lesson, for every villain an eventual downfall, often brought about by their own folly or the steadfast goodness of our heroes. The Pines family and their friends stood up to every challenge, sometimes by breaking a few rules themselves, but always for the right reasons. And perhaps that's the final comforting thought to take away. In Gravity Falls, good ultimately triumphed over evil, not by being perfect law-abiders, but by sticking together and doing what was necessary to protect what they love. The summer ended with laughter, hugs, and maybe a few tears, but also with a feeling of justice served. Gravity Falls' bizarre crimes have become treasured memories and cautionary tales written in journals and hearts. Now, the town's nights are quiet again, with only the chorus of crickets and the whisper of pine trees. The mystery's mostly at rest, at least until next time. So rest easy, dear listener. The stories of mischief and mayhem in Gravity Falls have been told, and order has been restored after all. The night is peaceful, and you are safe. Should you ever visit Gravity Falls in your dreams, you now know its secrets, and you can sleep soundly knowing that even the strangest crimes can be overcome by courage, cleverness, and a family that cares. Sweet dreams, and remember, trust no one, except maybe your grunkle.